Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the castle. That's Cardstock Afterlock. I'm going to be your host this week, Will Priester, aka Chief Justice '06, joined by our very good friend of the show, Geoff from SportsCardInvestor.com. Geoff, how is it going, my friend?
Going great, Will. How have you been, man? It's been a little bit.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you back, man. We've definitely missed you. I've had to navigate this tool all by myself. And while I can navigate it, it's always good to have the creator of the thing with us to show us all the beautiful things that are going on. We've got our usual suspects. Tambo is in the building. Tambo, how's it going up there in Canada?
It's going good, man. Definitely good. Like you said, to have Geoff back. Had a couple good shows there. We definitely missed Geoff, but we did do a nice little sports card investor show. It'll be a good segue here to drop in the promo code. But I think, going through it and just seeing some of this stuff, we did it for NBA. So I'm excited today to get in. We're definitely going to be talking some NFL and some football just to get into a little bit of a different mix here. So we'll see how that goes.
For sure. And as we say every week, man, it's no secret. SportsCardInvestor.com is the premier resource for anything sports cards, especially if you're trying to track market data. Has the outstanding market movers tool. Use the promo code GRINDERS. That's going to get you 20% off your first payment. That's first payment for the month or the year. I've been asked the question before, if I take the 20% off the month and I like it, can I go ahead and buy the year membership with the 20%? The answer is no, my friends. You get a one-time promo code. So I always advocate, just go ahead and pay for it for the year. It's going to give you the most bang for your buck upfront, real-time tracking on everything that's going on eBay. They've got the app out now, which, look, the app is free. Shh, don't tell anybody. Just kidding. App's free, can give you in real time kind of some of the hot cards that are trending. Once again, that's sportscardinvestor.com. Promo code GRINDERS, 20% off that first payment. That's for the month or for the year. Let's get into the meat and potatoes. This week, we're talking football. We've heard about everything that's going on with Walmart, everything that's happening in Target. People are having WWE SmackDown going on in the stores. They want select football. They want Prism football. And the NFL draft has just completed. We've got new quarterbacks, so in new teams, there's been a lot of movement this season. So I'm really interested to hear from Geoff about his overall view on what's going to happen with the football product this year. Geoff, over to you.
Yeah, football cards have been really hot this offseason. In fact, there really hasn't been an offseason for football cards. The old adage of wait until the season's over and then buy cards in the offseason because the prices dip. We really haven't seen much of that the last couple of years in any sport, and we particularly haven't seen it this offseason in football. Most of the cards have gone up in value since the season ended, and we'll take a look at some of them here in a minute. But as you said, Will, there's been a lot of new football releases coming out too that people have been excited about. We were just talking about Select Football, which came out probably about a month ago now, but it's still maybe more recently in retail. But man, people can't seem to get enough of it. They love that product, and in fact, I know Tambo was just talking about it as well, about how he pulled some real nice cards from that.
Yeah, for sure. I got it. We get a little bit later, just like everything here in Canada, but I was super excited. My buddy picked some up, lucky enough to not scalp it to me and just give it to me, straight up. So I was happy about that. I opened it, man. I couldn't believe the cards I was getting in there. And you've been on the select tip, if you will, for a while now, Geoff's just saying this is the way to go. And last time we were on, Will, you were on, Will and I agreed with you. We said the same thing for NBA. It's sort of carried over. I love select. I keep buying it. Courtside cards, field level cards. Now I'm getting to rip them and open them up. I've got some here beside me, and just the blasters were just loaded. So it's a really nice looking product. It's clean. It's, it's still a bit unique in the look of it. So it still stands out to me. You get some good pictures on there and things like that. So I'm really excited about it. That's why I'm sure everybody else is. But then, like you said, too, a lot of stuff going on with this quote unquote off season. That's not really an off season for the collectible space. People just keep buying, and you got the trends here. We're going to go into them. So I think it's a great time to be involved, and I'm excited for football to come back around. I've certainly got quite a few investment pieces that I'm into right now, looking to see how those do in the upcoming season, and with fantasy as well, right? When guys have big games, that can mean big sales. So excited about that. Quarterbacks are king still for me. What about you, Will?
Yeah, for sure. I'm still, going to be into buying quarterbacks. Have kind of been looking at the Super Bowl odds, just trying to kind of go next level for myself and see, okay, are these odds impacting card prices enough at the beginning of the season? Because typically in my mind, when I see odds for the Super Bowl, I see preseason hype. I see the Mahomes. I see the Tom Brady's. I see, Josh Allen. One of the things I wanted to bring up, Geoff, and this is something I want to get your read on. Justin Herbert was a really hot football card last season. And so kind of what's your read on him? He can't win Rookie of the Year again. So at this point now, he's kind of out of that window. Now we're in a space, I feel like, where he has to win. He has to put up numbers. He's got to go to the playoffs for maybe the card prices to keep increasing in a way that we think they can. What's your read on Justin Herbert? I know that's a little bit more specific. I didn't intend to get there right now, but since we're in there, what's your read on Herbert? How do you feel about him, I guess, long-term from last season going through to this season?
Well, I think you made a great point there, Will. So his prices are the highest of any of the draft picks, quarterbacks from this past year's draft. So his prices are higher than Joe Burrow's. His prices are higher, even though he was obviously drafted below Burrow, his prices are higher than Tua's or any of the other guys. And so what that means is that he really has to come out and perform this year, and the Chargers have to take a step forward. It's a little bit dangerous because even if he comes out and has a good season, but perhaps doesn't wow people like he made this monumental step forward, then he could suffer from just some fatigue in the card market around his cards. We saw it this last season. Lamar Jackson's cards absolutely tanked. I mean, they're still in the gutter. Of course, the season before, Lamar Jackson had his amazing MVP run, and there was all this hype around Baltimore. They kind of petered out early in the playoffs, and then you go into this season, and Lamar, like the expectations that were on Lamar's shoulders, there's not any possibility for him to live up to them. And he had an okay season. He didn't have as good of a season as he had the year before where he was an MVP, but he didn't have such a bad season where his card prices should have dropped by 70%, which a lot of them did. I mean, it was brutal. And so you do worry a little bit about the expectations now that have been set for Herbert and if he can continue to live up to them at the current price levels or not.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point, Geoff. I mean, and that was kind of, like I said, we kind of evolved into that. But as I've been following Herbert, that's what it felt like to me. I mean, I just felt like he was very inflated, and not that last season he shouldn't have been, but even going into this season, he just felt a little bit too expensive. Funny you mentioned Lamar Jackson, because I definitely think that's a guy we could possibly target that might be, his card prices may be down enough to where even if his season isn't a Super Bowl, if he comes out and it looks like he's turned a corner again, there may be some profit potential there with a guy like Lamar Jackson. And not that he's not a player that I don't want to hold, but I think at this point in his career, he's already won an MVP. It's not much else he can do but win a Super Bowl. So that's kind of my read on Lamar. Tambo, what's your read there, between Lamar and Herbert? And I do want to get into some of these Super Bowl odds here.
For sure. I'll even, tie some of that in. This is a topic I could talk all day about. I think Geoff made some incredible points there. And me, I'm a Ravens fan, so I certainly love talking about Lamar Jackson. But a couple things. I've got some Herberts that are sitting out for grading right now. I'm really hoping they come back sooner before the season starts because I want to sell them right now. To Geoff's point, you could have anything happen. 2 or 3 bad games out of the gate. Like you said, it's tougher for him to come out and just put up Patty Mahomes type level season or something like that. He's going to have big games. He's going to have opportunities. Their team is good. I'm not going to say they're bad. It's the Chargers. They're pretty good. They've got a good all-around team, good coach, good overall squad. But for me, that's the problem, right? That's all that's really there versus, I've been saying this forever about a guy like Burrow where, on the Bengals, it's going to be tough for him to do anything. Like he needed Rookie of the Year last year, the unfortunate injury. Glad he seems to be healthy coming back. Got Jamar Chase now. There's going to be hype there, but it's hard for me to see those cards going off because 1 or 2 big games, what does it mean for the Bengals in that division with everybody there, including back to the Ravens and Lamar Jackson? So the reason I like Lamar, it's not a team homer bias thing with me. It's that, like you said, he's got an MVP, way better likelihood. So tying in those odds, I've got him around 10 or 11 to 1. Only the Chiefs, the Bucks, and the Bills in front of them for even the opportunity. So you got playoffs in mind. You've got Super Bowl potential. They did get better. They had a great little draft. And then lastly is the fantasy aspect, which I brought up earlier, so I can tie that back in here. is just the upside. He can have one big Sunday game and go off and run in a 70-yard touchdown for a rushing TD for himself, throw for one bomb to someone out there, whether it's Hollywood or someone like that. And then on top of that, they win 31-0 like they've done so many times in the past. And that is hype. That sells cards. So that can give you those spikes and you can just get them week after week. Versus, like you said, with the Chargers, even if they get 3 wins, like what's the ceiling or where else can the Herbert card really go early on in the season, I'm saying. So that's kind of my thoughts there, Will, bringing it together.
Good. I mean, I like it, man. I'm going to hop to another team as well, Geoff. And, this is a team that actually, because of a trade they made in the offseason, have really good odds considering, what they've done. I'm going over to Matthew Stafford. The Los Angeles Rams are plus 1,200 to win a Super Bowl. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. They're basically tied with Baltimore and Buffalo right now. The next team down under that group is San Francisco, Cleveland, Green Bay. So what's your read on Matthew Stafford? I did, when the trade happened, I know, his cards, I think, kind of took off. Have you looked into Matthew Stafford? And then how have you felt about where this team could go with him at the helm of the ship versus a guy like Jared Goff, who's now going to be in Detroit and hopefully not rot away his career?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm going to see if we can call up some Matthew Stafford cards here on Market Movers, if we can bring up the screen share. So, by the way, guys, we added this new quick search feature to Market Movers now. Any card you're looking for, just hit that little search icon right there and start typing in the player's name, and it's going to immediately call up every single one of their cards. And it's just a matter of, checking the one you want. And you can even check multiple ones and compare them. So let's look at his 2009 Topps Chrome base and PSA 10. Let me go ahead and type in PSA 10 here, so we only see the PSA 10s from 2009. And so we'll get we've already got and we'll get the base Chrome. So we'll get these two from 2009. We'll hit the view chart, and it's going to chart those right away for us. So you can see there was an upwards trajectory, which took place in here. So that was the news of the trade, sent these up. Mm-hmm. These, by the way, are super low population cards in PSA 10, right? So the Topps Chrome base is a pop 95. The Bowman Chrome base is a pop 83. So you're not actually seeing a ton of sales of these cards because there's not many out there. But you did see a little bit of a spike in this range back into, back in February, March. And then, continue to kind of high points there through March. They've actually headed back down some recently. In fact, we had a strangely low sale of that card here in May. And then this is the lowest sale we've seen in a while too. So yeah, I mean, maybe it's a decent opportunity now that the prices have come down a little bit from the news of the trade, which did send them up considerably. But now that it's been a couple of months, they have started to fall back down to earth. So if you can pick up some Matthew Stafford, cards in kind of this lower type of range where they've been recently, could be a good buying opportunity. I mean, as you said, the Rams, they definitely have potential. I mean, this was a team that was in the Super Bowl just a couple of years ago. And I have to believe that Stafford is a upgrade from Jared Goff. And they got a lot of similar pieces around. Maybe Todd Gurley's obviously no longer with the team and no longer in his prime. But they've still got a lot of other good pieces there. I'm real high on Van Jefferson, one of their new receivers. He's a Florida Gator, but I got to watch that guy tear up defenses for the Gators. And he had a pretty good rookie campaign for the Rams. And I think he's going to be a big contributor this year with Stafford throwing him the ball as well. So that could be a nice play.
Yeah, I like it. Tambo, over to you.
Yeah, I guess one of the things, I don't mean to just kick it right back to Geoff, but I am very curious of his opinion on this because it ties in with the Super Bowl odds. It ties in with a guy like Matt Stafford and the trends that we want to look at anyway. But, it seems like this is where I wonder about the buying opportunities because you've got at the top, let's say using the odds against the Chiefs and the Bucks. Okay, we've got Mahomes and Brady. Clearly their cards are very sought after. These are great cards, great players, long-term upside, everything's there. Then you got kind of some hot ticket items in a Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Like these are the next range of guys. We just talked about Lamar. Josh Allen would fit into that mix. Their team is awesome. He's young. Everything's great. So that all makes sense. But then you've got Baker Mayfield, Carson Wentz, Russell Wilson. We just talked about Stafford, all these other guys sort of, Dak Prescott. Where do you see them fitting in? Because those are the guys that, they're not the hottest buys that you see all the time where everybody wants them, in bundles, but they're also not guys that you should frown upon. And they're definitely guys that can make a big splash throughout the season at some point and even get their teams into the playoffs, maybe I think the Colts could do big things. They've got a really good team. Getting Carson Wentz in there, he can just bounce back. That's a guy I think that you could see, have a pretty good season as well. What are your thoughts on sort of that middle range of quarterbacks, just using them and in general?
Let me squeeze this in too, Geoff. Please give me some favorable results on Carson Wentz. I have loaded up on Carson Wentz in the offseason, and I think I've been trying to encourage Tambo to buy a few pieces. I'm just kidding. I have loaded up, but I do want to hear your thoughts about this. This is a big one.
Yeah, for sure. So it depends what type of sports card game you want to play, what kind of sports card investing you want to do. If you're looking for flip opportunities, if you're looking for guys you could buy now and maybe halfway into the season, or as you get later into the season before the playoffs, sell them for a nice profit, then I think it's those middle tier guys that actually can give you the most value. Frankly, it doesn't matter how well Tom Brady does this season, or I think we're even getting to the point where it doesn't matter how well Patrick Mahomes does this season. Their cards will probably inch up slowly or inch down slowly, but we're no longer likely to see rapid movement on their cards in either direction, in my opinion. However, the cards that can, really accelerate or decelerate are some of those kind of more middle tier guys if they have a breakout year, if they lead a team to go do really good things. So a great example, you just mentioned Carson Wentz, right? So if Indianapolis comes out hot, if he reunites with the coach there, if they, let's say, start the season 7-1, and he looks like the quarterback that he looked like in Philadelphia that one year that they were really playing well underneath him, then absolutely his cards are going to go nuts, without a doubt. That's the type of thing that's going to send the football card world into a frenzy. His cards will go up considerably the first half of the season. He's got a lot more upside than some of the more proven players like an Aaron Rodgers or a Russell Wilson. Those guys don't have the same upside with their card prices as a Carson Wentz in the short term. Now, conversely, Carson Wentz also has a much bigger downside than those guys as well. If the Packers come out, well, that's assuming Rodgers is with the Packers, but if the Packers come out and go 3-4 out the gate, Rodgers' card prices aren't going to move. If Indianapolis comes out and goes 3-4 out of the gate, people may start bailing on their Carson Wentz cards pretty quickly, and you may see some fire sales going on. So it's a lot higher risk, but it's higher reward for that middle tier quarterback. Now, for the long term, if you're trying to buy cards that are good things to invest in and hold for many years, then I would go with the proven guys. I'd go with the Bradys and the Mahomes, or look to a lot of the look to a lot of the Hall of Fame players. And there's some pretty good values there. In a second, we got to come back to some stats I want to show you on the screen, which are pretty crazy. But we can wrap up there on the kind of that middle tier, type guy.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's sort of what I was looking for. That's sort of also how I like to invest, right? So the two different ways to do it. I'm in on buying some of these guys, getting rid of them on some of the hype or the big games or throughout the season, playoff runs, thinking, long-term, short-term, but, in the, sense of 17 games of what we're going to get there versus, the Bradys and the Mahomes and things like that. I know you've talked about this in the past and I listened, and that was, second, third week of February. You had to get those deals when people were just sort of coming down off the Super Bowl and moving some pieces to get into NBA. And back then was probably the better time to pick up some of those Mahomes, Brady types. Still good buys out there. Like you said, they're just not going to move as much. Oftentimes in the middle of February, like you've mentioned, you could find some of those deals on the longer term holds. And I did listen there. So appreciate that. Will, back to you, man.
Yeah, well, Geoff, I know you wanted to kind of highlight some of these stats that we were talking about. I mean, I think it's a good time because we're already kind of in the vein. We're looking at cards, we're looking at prices. We've kind of talked about some of these mid-tier guys. What's kind of been the trends for you? As we've kind of gone through, because we kind of talked about that. Yeah, there was maybe a short window of some form of a football offseason, but it seems like people have continued to buy through the Super Bowl, through the draft. What are some of the trends that you've seen on prices, on players, et cetera?
Yeah, so up on the screen here, if we could do the screen share again, I brought up, this is one of my favorite screens in Market Movers. This is price movements by player. And so what I've done here is I filtered it by sport to football, and I filtered it grade by grade to only show graded cards because that gives you a little bit of a truer trend line. Now, what that's going to mean is that maybe some of the like brand new quarterbacks aren't going to be appearing in here yet because they don't have enough graded cards. But for the quarterbacks that are in here, it gives you a little truer trend line. And I'm looking over the last 90 days. So basically, this goes right back to the end of the football season because the Super Bowl was just over 90 days ago. So this is basically giving you that, from the time last season ended. So what you'll note here is that there's, a lot of players towards the top of this list that people are expecting big, like kind of comebacks out of this year, right? Baker Mayfield. I mean, he was good last year, but people are expecting even more of him this year. His cards have been the absolute hottest this off season. They're up almost 59% as a collective. Daniel Jones, he's up 50%. Odell Beckham Jr. up 41% as people are looking forward to him getting back on the field. Sam Darnold, 35% with his move to Carolina, right? And so, Josh Allen's been hot this offseason. But what's interesting is as you look down this list, you see a whole lot of modern players, all guys who are playing right now, guys who people are excited about what they could potentially do, this season. So there's Carson Wentz. He's up 8.65% this offseason. So maybe not as much as you might expect there, but his cards are up. Jalen Hurts up 8.45%, et cetera. What's interesting is as you continue to go through this list, as you start to get down to 0, and now you start to look at all the cards that are going down. So Mahomes is actually a little down this offseason. He's down 2.82%. Part of the reason for that is that his cards continue to go up a ton last season. Then they lost the Super Bowl, a little bit of a letdown at the end of the season. So he's down a little bit. But his cards already started from a very high place, right? Tua is down slightly. Stafford's down slightly. Again, that's a little, surprising there overall. But as you get down to some of these cards that are really starting to go down quite a bit, as we start to look at some of these bigger negatives, what you're going to see, by the way, Tom Brady, negative 18%. And you often see that with your Super Bowl winner, where their cards just escalated so much, going into the Super Bowl, that after the Super Bowl, even though they won and were the MVP, there's still a little bit of a natural letdown. We saw it happen last year with Mahomes. We saw it happen this year with Tom Brady, one of the biggest droppers during this offseason. But then a lot of these guys who are real negative, you're getting a lot of your Hall of Famers in here. So you're getting Jim Kelly, you're getting, a guy like Eli Manning, Warren Moon, you're getting Joe Montana, Randy Moss, Peyton Manning, Reggie White, Jerry Rice, Dan Marino, a lot of these guys, Deion Sanders, Brett Favre, Lawrence Taylor, Barry Sanders, John Elway. Look how far these guys' cards have fallen. Troy Aikman, of course, Deshaun Watson, that's a different reason, but Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith. I mean, look at, and so if you look at a guy like what is going on with Michael Irvin's cards, this card right here is down 59%. Like, let's take a look. And what you're going to see, actually, it opened up in a different window. I've got to, let me search for it in the window I'm screen sharing here. I'm going to come back over here. Let me just search for this card so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So what you're going to see, and let's expand the date range here a little more so you can see the rise and the fall. So you see that pattern? This pattern happens with a lot of the classic football players' cards. We saw across the entire card market, across all sports, basketball, football, hockey, baseball. We saw in February, late January and February, this crazy run up in prices of all of these iconic players' cards. Not as much the modern players. We're talking just the iconic players who had this incredible swoop up, and then we've seen a pretty significant crash back down since. One that I was looking at the other day with this same type of thing going on was I was looking at Peyton Manning's rookie cards. And so if you look at like his 1988 Bowman base card in PSA 10, again, quite a rise up, a peak, and now it's kind of falling back down to earth again. I actually think that buying some of these iconic cards now represent a pretty good opportunity. So while there's a lot of people that this offseason have been chasing Baker Mayfield and have been chasing Josh Allen and have been chasing Sam Darnold, and, I kind of think like, all right, maybe now's the time to chase Peyton Manning. I mean, his cards, are 46, or they're up 46% if you go back 6 months ago. But if you go back just 3 months ago, and look at what that fall's been like, they're down 30%, right? This one particular card is. And so I kind of like the idea of picking up some of these iconic cards while everyone's focused on the new modern players. And then maybe as you get late into the season, and if some of the modern players start to fall off a little bit, then maybe that's an opportunity to kind of conversely pick some of them up, right?
Did we lose Will?
I think we lost his audio there.
He's on mute. Will's on mute.
Yeah, rookie mistake. My bad. See, Geoff, man, you got me so excited I can't even unmute myself here. Can we go back to where you were on kind of that main page? Because there's something that caught my attention that I think is huge for me. And when we're looking at number of sales, like how much money we're seeing move from hand to hand. So when I'm seeing, the liquidity of a Baker Mayfield, the liquidity of Daniel Jones, the liquidity of Sam Darnold, that one actually really caught me by surprise. I mean, think about $109,000 worth of sales there for a guy like him. And I know a lot of it is him coming to Carolina. Then you go down to Josh Allen, who was already popular, $500,000 in card sales in terms of money movement. I mean, I just think that's huge. I even saw some other guys as we were a little further down that were in the hundreds to 200s. You know what? For me, that gets me excited about some of these players. But look at that. Tom Brady, $5 million.
I just sorted by that column. So in the last 90 days, and this is just eBay transactions. In the last 90 days, there have been almost $6 million worth of Tom Brady cards bought and sold on eBay. And this, by the way, is not every single card. It's a lot of cards. Within Market Movers, we're tracking 171 Tom Brady cards. So we're tracking all of his key cards. But there are some other cards out there that we're not tracking, that are more rare, right? That aren't being transacted very often. But even with 171 key cards, almost 6 million in sales volume for Brady, 3 million for Mahomes, over 3 million. Then you got Herbert at 1.775 million, Burrow less than half that, and then Jerry Rice, Josh Allen, Peyton Manning, Kyler Murray, Joe Montana. Kind of an interesting list to look at. Aaron Rodgers, Jim Brown, Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson. Shows you how crazy the hype is around Justin Herbert, to think of the volume of his cards being sold third behind simply Brady and Mahomes, and above all of these other guys that are, above so many of these other huge names. But I guess that's probably not unlike jersey sales. I mean, I imagine Herbert's jerseys are, I don't know that for sure, but I imagine if you looked at the top selling jerseys in the NFL right now, it's probably Brady, Mahomes, Herbert, right? And so their card sales are no different in that respect.
Good point, Geoff. Tambo, over to you.
Yeah, no, I just following along here and seeing sort of the same thing. I think biggest thing for me is we just talked about Herbert. Now looking here at the change, right? Minus 48.75%. It makes some sense. Like you said, at the end of the season, the same thing you mentioned with Tom Brady there, Super Bowl MVP, but it happens. Mahomes in the Super Bowl, but it drops from there. And then Herbert, Rookie of the Year. All these things, the hype happened for all of them. The two guys that are in the Super Bowl are at the top. One of them was the MVP and one of them is where he was. Like you said, Mahomes, he was back for another year, the previous year's winner and MVP, and now the Rookie of the Year. So it makes sense, the volume that I'm seeing, Will, on all three of these guys. And again, it makes sense based on Geoff's points of why they dropped some. The interesting point, I guess, is Mahomes. A lot of volume there, 317 cards there, and then not, that we're bringing through. Is it 5,500 sales, right, Geoff?
5,500 sales of his cards that we've tracked.
Yeah.
The average sale being $583. Whereas Brady, there's less total sales of his cards, but the average sale is much higher because his cards in general are more valuable, right? Herbert, his cards are less valuable than Mahomes or Brady, but there's just tons of buy and sell activity around Herbert.
Yeah, and it looks like Mahomes still, like you said, he dipped slightly, but not as much as what, it's not really the worst card to be hanging on to. If you still held on to him, you're probably not down too much. And now there's all the opportunity of coming back this season and getting it back to level or whatever. So all makes sense to me there, Will. I think that it's just, always fun to see this tool in action and just be able to see what you can look at. If you're not using it, to me, you're crazy, because you can actually go in and find out all of these things. And then back to the, real quick on the point on Peyton Manning, DFS land that we play in, we're all about a good pivot. And if everybody wants to be buying, Darnold and Baker Mayfield, we talked about some of those other guys. By all means, I'm all about getting in on a little Peyton Manning action. I already pulled it up here when you brought that up. So I like that call quite a bit. And I'm always looking for opportunities like that, especially for long-term.
Yeah, for sure. And guess what? It's amazing how organic this show typically goes. We're already at our last topic. I know the viewers can't see that, but we're at the last topic. Who are our targets to get ahead of before the season? And clearly, Geoff, you just demonstrated that, some of the more iconic players may be the opportunities that we're looking for. Even before we kind of looked at that and pulled this up, who are some guys you have in your mind, Geoff? You're saying well before the season, whether it's a flip or a hold, what are some of the guys that you were maybe thinking about picking up ahead of the season?
Yeah, so a couple of guys I like actually right here on this screen. I actually like Joe Burrow because he was the most hyped quarterback going into last season. He was playing great, had that horrible injury, and of course, need to make sure he's going to fully recover and actually be able to come back and be effective again. But you compare him to Herbert, and his average sale, Burrow's average card is selling for about half of what Herbert's average card is. And I feel like because he's starting at such a low point comparatively, that Burrow could be one of those guys that if when he gets back, if he comes out and starts looking good again and starts showing some of the flashes that he showed his freshman year or his rookie year, that his cards could quickly jump up in price. So he's a guy I like. Another guy I like a lot is Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's prices have gone up some this offseason. They're up 8%. But Arizona continues to add weapons. They continue to build around him. They seem like they're truly an up-and-coming team. And Murray, in my opinion, has been really good his first 2 years. And I feel like they got a good thing going on in Arizona. So I'm pretty excited about Kyler Murray. He's one of those guys who I think could potentially make a big leap this season. And his card prices could hopefully go along with it.
Yeah, AJ Green's excited about Kyler Murray too. He's another one that just took the leap from Burrow to Murray land. Yep. And look out, he may have hit the fountain of youth. Yep. Because everybody was writing AJ Green off, and lo and behold, now he's in an offense where the ball's going to be flying around all the time. So I like that call, Geoff. Looking at Kyler Murray, looking at Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow for sure. His card prices are down. And they just added more weapons even in the draft. They pretty much got his number one target from college. So, I'm excited to see where this offense heads. Tambo, targets ahead of the season.
Yeah, I just got the biggest one of mine right there that Geoff just talked about is Kyler Murray. I got a couple others, so I'll just start here quick just to pile on a little bit there. And I bought them a little while ago, and I continued to buy them. I love the moves they made in the offseason. But like I said, it's almost like my second guy who's Lamar Jackson. Already talked about him earlier, so I can speed it up. But the thing about those guys is that they don't need to necessarily do if they win the games they're supposed to and get their team where they're supposed to get their team. That's really, to me, the bonus, Will, because I think the biggest thing for me, we've watched it over the last NBA season, even last season in NFL, the fantasy games sell. And these guys just have huge fantasy games. Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson are winning, league winning guys for their teams. And they're still affordable. They have a lot of upside. And like I said, the bonus or the cherry on top is if they do bring their team to the playoffs, and then the sky's the limit, right? They can go up even more. So I love some good fantasy quarterbacks for that reason. I think that those two stand out to me. The rookie for me that we didn't talk about a lot today, I think I actually saw that he was down a little bit, surprisingly. They lost Wentz to go all in on this guy, and it's Jalen Hurts. And I think he's got a lot of again, talking about the same style of quarterback, fantasy upside. Is he going to make some mistakes? Absolutely. Throw some picks, all that stuff. But again, when you look at where Burrow cards are and where Herbert cards are and things like that, Philly's not really, that much different to me in the sense where Cincinnati is 100-1 to win the Super Bowl, and the Eagles are 65 or whatever. So, on my book right now that I'm looking at, just using back to those odds, Hurts to me is going to have some good fantasy games, back to the same Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson theory that I just had. And to me, I buy him over Tua. Everything I saw out of Tua looked like it was his O-line and weapons from Alabama and not converting over necessarily to the NFL. Not to say he won't do it. Tua looks like he's going to be okay, but I would still side with Jalen Hurts here and get some of the upside there. And then, yeah, definitely, Geoff, just put me on to some of the, make a little bit of a pivot. If everyone's buying all these up-and-comers and all the hype, get back to some of those icon cards. I certainly like the Peyton Manning play. I saw Elway was down. So that's a card I've been thinking about for a while. So going to go dig back into that. I know sometimes those rookies are still a bit more expensive than what we're saying here. We can take with some upside plays. But again, for the long term, you got to think about what are they actually going to be worth and where might they go in the future. So I'll try and get in on those now while everybody's thinking about the other side with modern.
Yeah, for sure. I just brought up
something.
Yeah, I was going to say, I just brought up Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray on Market Movers here just to take a look. So in this case, I brought up Jalen Hurts 2020 Prism Silver Card in raw condition, since there's not really enough of these graded back yet to get a great trend line. You can see what that did basically ever since that card came out. So right at the beginning of December, because that's right when Prism hit the shelves for the first time. And so, there was a bit of a drop of that card through January, kind of started to rise back up again in February, maybe as it was solidified that he was going to be likely the starter. But then ever since then, it's really fallen back again. And so I do think, there's opportunity there with Jalen Hurts for sure. And then Kyler Murray being the top line on the graph. His cards did go up quite a bit this offseason through the months of February and March and April. But then if you look at what's happened the last 3 or 4 weeks, they've slipped back down quite a bit. So they're not up, they're now kind of back to close to where they were right when the offseason began. And so, it might be a buying opportunity for both of these guys right now. I think those are both pretty interesting charts to look at.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, there's no secret who I started buying last season once he lost his starting role. That's Carson Wentz. I was always a big believer in the fact that a team was not going to let him sit on the shelf and rot away. I didn't think he was going to be a backup. Part of that is I felt like it was the Cam Newton syndrome, right, Tambo, where I knew if I said perfect world scenario, Cam gets signed with the Patriots, lo and behold, he gets signed with the Patriots and the cards fly off the shelf. And I think I said this on the show. Perfect world scenario, Carson Wentz goes to the Colts. And lo and behold, he ends up on the Colts. And I mean, this is the scenario that we wanted for Wentz. This is, if he's ever had a chance to be successful, this is it. Like, if he's not successful this season, I don't know what we're going to do. I mean, he's going to have the coach. He's got the environment, doesn't have to play out in the elements at home. It's going to be in a dome, had some weapons, has a really good offensive line. So I'm really looking for big things for Carson Wentz. And then in my head, when I really sat back and thought about this, Geoff, Phillip Rivers had a chance to take this team deep in the playoffs. I mean, he really did. He had a chance. And so if Carson Wentz can come out and find the magic again, I'm really excited. Secondly, for me, it's Dak Prescott. And I think it's just because Dak is coming off the injury. I think we might have some buying opportunities there. And he's a guy that I do want to hold because I do think the Cowboys, every year they have a chance to come out of that division because it's so weak. And I think a win for the Cowboys this season is just getting back in the playoffs, right? If Dak can get this team in the playoffs, then we may see some opportunities. So for me, I'm definitely going to be buying more Carson Wentz. And I've got a stockpile of Carson Wentz already, but I'm going to begin buying some Dak Prescott. Not going to sell everything, of course, but these are going to be guys that I hold. Maybe I buy 5 and hold 1 or 2. That's kind of going to be my philosophy. But Dak and Carson Wentz, those are 2 targets for me that I'm definitely interested in buying.
Yeah, and I just called up Dak's graph here. His cards went up a lot in actually through the end of the season. I guess people, they had gone down quite a bit after his injury. In fact, if I expand the graph out a little more, be interesting to look at the last year on this card. Whoa, what did I just do? I brought up every single one of his Prism cards over the last year. Hold on one second. Let me.
Oh, that's okay, Geoff.
Let me adjust that there. That was a crazy graph, but there we go. So yeah, you can, isn't it? So this is 1 year worth of data. This is really an interesting story that this tells, right? So this was the run up to the start of the NFL season. People really, really excited about Dak and the Cowboys this NFL season. So you can see going back to last July through last September, his cards went up about 4x in price during that incredible run up to the start of the NFL season. Then the injury happened right in here, right? The injury happens and then whoosh, a tremendous fall back down to back right. And then they fell by 4x. So basically the cards went up by 4x. He gets injured. They fell by 4x. they stayed low for a lot of the season. Then once the season started wrapping up, they started to go back up with anticipation of people excited about it coming back this year. They've fallen off a little bit in the last couple of weeks. That might be a little bit of a, I don't know what that is, a little NFL draft fatigue or something going on there. But they're back down slightly from where they were about a month ago, but they're still pretty far up from where they were late last year, but they're still pretty far down from where they were at the beginning of last season. So yeah, that's quite the roller coaster ride there for Dak Prescott's premier rookie card there.
For sure. Well, listen, guys, I mean, we've kind of hit the end. If we don't have any closing thoughts, Tambo, you have any closing thoughts? Geoff, you have any closing thoughts?
I just want to remind people this, with the partnership we've got with you guys at RotoGrinders, anyone who's interested in subscribing to Market Movers, which is the software we've been showing throughout the show that tracks all of these price movements, you get 20% off by using promo code GRINDERS, 20% off your first payment by going to sportscardinvestor.com and clicking Market Movers in the main menu bar.
Tambo.
No, I'm all good, man. Happy to have Geoff back. It was a good show. I love digging into this thing, especially since we had the NBA version a couple weeks ago. And you were mentioned earlier, Will, it was when we were on with Michael J. Cards. We talked a little bit about Kyler, Lamar, and then, of course, Wentz. So now to kind of see it all come together, that's what it's all about. I love that. So if you guys don't have it, Geoff just gave you the promo code again. Get on it. Get this tool. Get out there. There's a lot of cool things you can find out with this example right here with Dak. Even that injury, man, it only brought him back down to his starting point. He's battled all the way back, and now it's a little bit of a dip again. That's somebody you're going after. Now's probably the time to get after it, because when he comes out playing again and playing hard, then the card's only going to go up or likely to go back up to where it was. So love this tool for that reason, and thanks so much for coming back on with us, Geoff. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. It's been great, guys. Really appreciate it, Tambo, Will. Thanks a lot for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, this was Card Stock After Lock. We'll see you next week in the castle. We'll be talking NBA Top Shots. See you soon.